There's still a lot you probably don't know about Raft. Hi friends, and welcome back to Raft. Although Raft's birthday trivia event is technically over and the winners have been declared, my brain is still full of weird trivia knowledge that I'm going to impart on all of you. These range from glitches to fun facts to random speedrunners knowledge that's kind of entertaining. So let's dive into 10 more things you probably didn't know about Raft. There are some hidden loot boxes at the Vasagaton. If you've had the pleasure of clearing out the massive cruise ship that comprises the second story location, you undoubtedly know that there's plenty of loot to be had and plenty of rats to contend with. But unless you're paying attention, you probably didn't realize that there's one extra crate on the very top. This is a generic quote-unquote radio tower loot box containing a pretty good assortment of mid-level items with some additional tools. However, there is one more crate that was only discovered this week. User Notrol on Discord found a metal loot box hidden below the terrain surrounding the cruise ship in a small nook. I spent a good few hours attempting to see if you could access this box, but unfortunately it seems completely locked into the terrain. There's one gap that looks promising, but it's sealed with sand from the other side, so I tried to see if base clipping worked. On most islands, you can swim up beneath the island by swimming all the way around to the sand edge, then swimming up the whole island where there's no collision. Shockingly, the cruise ship actually has a hard bottom, so it's currently inaccessible without mods. Although the race to find a way in is on, so if you manage to find a way to get the box in Vanilla Survival, be sure to tag me. For now, it will just remain the true instance of Davy Jones's locker. Second, you don't actually need to fortify your whole raft to be completely protected from Jeremiah's wrath. There are some weird rules surrounding the attack chances, and typically the more sides of the foundation that are touching the water, the more likely it is that that foundation will be attacked. You can use this to your advantage by jutting out some pieces on any given side of your raft to drastically increase their attack priority over your existing raft. If you fortify the pieces of foundation that are jutting out, you can actually save a total of 5 pieces from being attacked. The one directly behind the fortified piece, of course, and then 2 more on either side. So if you leave a 4-long foundation gap in between 2 fortified juts, those pieces are safe without using up the metal and nails that you would typically need to fortify those pieces yourself. The other main thing to keep in mind is that you'll need to fortify either side of your corner pieces, since corners have the highest aggro rate normally on your raft. But this is a great way to save some resources, even if it does look like you're trying to infringe on the Poison Puffer's signature style. Third person is probably a lot more broken than you think. It's pretty common for a lot of first-person games to have a third-person option for the players who are used to that style of game. From Minecraft to Skyrim, being able to view your playable character has always been a major feature, and Raft is no different. But what does make Raft different is that playing in third person actually fundamentally changes the way certain game mechanics work. For instance, if you're swimming to gather resources on top of the water, your reach distance is actually about 1.3 times longer than it is in first person, allowing you to get items further away from yourself. That in itself is weird, but we can really show off how truly broken third person is at the cruise ship. Now, typically when you play the story location, you're supposed to solve a number of puzzles and fight all of those rats we talked about earlier, but speedrunners found a way around all of that using third person. So typically you climb up the outside of the ship and try to open a door. You'll get a little message saying that the door is locked from the other side and therefore you can't open it. Well, like I said, third person is broken. Once you're inside of the ship, the game doesn't care what part of the ship you're on. So you can enter third person, look at the door on the floor above you, and open it because technically you're in the ship and therefore all of the requirements have been met. So yeah, third person makes a lot of sense. Another fun fact, also discovered by speedrunners, is the small fact that most barriers and hard collisions are simply optional if you're sitting in a chair. One of Raft's most famous speedrun skips is referred to as Tangaroa Skip, and that's because you can skip the entirety of going through the dark underbelly of the abandoned city by building yourself a nice ramp with a chair at the end of it, then just simply floating through the giant dome, because walls don't matter. With a high enough ramp, you can even achieve the notorious Tangaroa Skip, where you just go directly to the bridge, effectively negating Tangaroa as a whole, which is pretty funny. But Tangaroa isn't the only thing you can clip through. Islands, other story locations, pretty much any solid wall is fair game. So you can sit in chairs to defy the laws of physics. Great. Good luck fishing while sitting down though. Tree drops are predetermined and are always consistent. If you're like me, I always thought it was a random chance of getting leaves, planks, and the occasional fruit or seed from a tree. Well, at least the planks and leaves part is completely standardized, like in palm trees. They always take 5 hits to remove, and you'll always get 1 plank, then 2 leaves, then 1 plank, then 2 planks, then 1 plank, no matter what. Or mango trees, you are guaranteed to get a mango on your 3rd hit. But surprisingly, birch trees and pine trees are actually the best bang for your buck if you're going for planks. Where a palm tree will only ever drop 5 planks, both the pine tree and the birch trees will always drop 7 planks. So if you're trying to set up a good wood farm on your raft, skip the tropics and go straight to the temperate regions. It'll save you a lot of hassle. But that isn't the last of my tree-based fun facts for today. I wouldn't have called this, but palm seeds are actually the rarest type of tree seed in the game. Mango trees are the most likely to drop a seed with a 53.8% chance of receiving a seed per tree. Birch trees and pine trees are solidly in the middle to drop a seed of their respective tree with a 51.6% chance of receiving a seed, but palm trees only have a 46.6% chance of dropping a seed. In terms of game mechanics, this is actually divided into your chance to get a seed per hit, meaning you could theoretically get 5 palm seeds from a single tree. Your chances of doing so, however, are absurdly low. A whopping 0.0023% chance low, that is. So if you end up with more than 1 seed per tree, just know that you got lucky. There's a lot of talk about there being 2 rare islands in Raft, the Boat Crash Island and the Plane Crash Island. These unique islands only have a 2% chance of being spawned whenever a new small island is loaded in after the first island, which definitely makes them rare. But I would argue that the Evergreen and Desert Islands are even rarer. In the typical Raft playthrough, a player will take about 2 hours to reach the radio tower. New small islands are spawned in a roughly 300-meter radius about every 5 minutes. Whether or not you see these islands or choose to visit them is a little bit more player-dependent than pure RNG. So if we take these 2 hours it takes to reach the radio tower and divide it by 5 minutes, you'll likely have had the chance to explore about 24-ish islands or 20-ish islands in that time frame. Of course, the longer you play the game, the more chances you have to spawn in new small islands, so it adds up fairly quickly. Evergreen and Desert Islands, on the other hand, can only be spawned once you have unlocked access to Balboa and Caravan Town, respectively. And even then, these islands technically count as large islands and are therefore fewer and farther in between. But to add even more onto that, you need to have large islands within a 1,000-meter radius of the respective story location, and those aren't even guaranteed to match the biome type. So I'd say that it's pretty rare to get these islands, whereas the boat and plane islands are more of a matter of inconvenience. Maybe that's just because I've gotten them in so many of my speedruns, though. Metal fishing rods actually change your fishing chances. The scrap hook and the metal axe are the upgraded versions of your plastic hook and stone axe, and these increase your tool speed and durability, so I thought the same rules applied to the metal fishing rod, where it was just a slightly faster bite time and more durability for your fishing trips. But I was wrong. It turns out that using a metal fishing rod actually changes your loot tables a little bit, lowering your chances of getting things like herrings and pomfrets by quite a bit, while raising your chances for tilapia and mackerels by a lot. The metal rod also gives you a slightly better chance of getting the fishing treasure loot, such as the old shoe or the lucky cat statue, so it's definitely worth the upgrade. Unless you're specifically trying to farm fish for shark bait, then you should probably stick with the generic rod. It's faster to run on the water than it is to swim. This is another bit of speed tech that I get to share with you, but in this case it makes even less sense than some of the other stuff. Player movement is fairly consistent in Raft, with the average walk speed coming out to about 3 meters per second, which is the same speed that you swim at, and that makes perfect sense to me, but there's one more factor. On land, you can sprint, but there's no way to move faster in the water. Sprinting brings your average speed up to about 8 meters per second, and for some reason you can sprint mid-air. So if you're trying to get through the water quickly, it's actually your best bet to keep jumping for joy and keeping as much airtime as you can so that you can sprint mid-air. That makes your average speed in the water somewhere closer to about 5.8-ish meters per second, which is a happy medium between sprinting and swimming. Either way, it's definitely faster than staying underwater. And you have a bonus chance to play jump rope with Jeremiah. There are only 2 true softlocks in Raft. Now, with the popularity of speedrunning blowing up on the internet, I'm assuming you know what a softlock is, but if you don't, it's basically when you can technically still play a game, but you can't progress any further. Raft has the somewhat strange feature of being loaded around your raft rather than being loaded around you, the player, so if something happens to your raft, your world is done for as nothing new will load. That means no trash, no islands, no more stuff, aka no more progress. The most common softlock is when new players don't repair or build their raft and Jeremiah destroys the foundations, essentially leaving you stranded in the water. However, there is one more way that you can be completely softlocked. You see this large island? You see that pond right there? Sometimes Raft's collision is a bit weird and your raft won't properly bump into some parts of island terrain, so it will float through. That isn't a huge problem because the inside is hollow and doesn't have collision like we talked about with the cruise ship earlier. However, because this pond is at sea level and technically does have collision in the pond to prevent players from falling through the island, your raft can get stuck in there. And yeah, there is no way to get it out. You won't ever get waves large enough to dislodge your boat, so this island is now permanently your home with whatever goods you have in your pocket, and you're not going to get anything else. But at least it's funny. So that's 10 more things that you probably didn't know about Raft. And maybe there's some more stuff that even I don't know, so you should put that in the comments below. And also be sure to tell me what your favorite fun fact from today was. I really enjoyed researching this video, although my desk randomly fell apart, so that didn't help me with my release schedule anyways. But anyways, that's it for me for now. I hope you enjoyed. Please consider leaving a like if you did, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. It really helps me out. I hope to see you all again soon, but until then, have a great day.